Now, Clover Stroud is here, who's written, and we often say this, an incredible book or a remarkable memoir, but this book really is remarkable. It's called The Wild Other, and it features, well, I was trying to think of a way of crystallising this. In a way, it was the way you dealt with something catastrophic that happened to your mother when you were a teenager. So, Clover, just tell us a little bit about what happened to your mum.
So I had a very, very loving and very happy childhood. It was pretty much a picture-perfect childhood, really, in the country. And but then when I was 16, I was in the first term of my A-levels, and Mum dropped me off at school, and then she went off and she did what she often did. In fact, what we all did a lot, and she went riding. And she fell off her horse, and she took the full impact of the blow on her head. And she was in a coma after that for 3 months. She had emergency brain surgery, and she sort of gradually woke up from her coma over 3 months. And it doesn't happen like it does in films. It's sort of instantly. And she was completely altered by the accident. She was very physically disabled. She could walk for the first couple of years, but she sort of became more incapacitated. But she developed lots of medical issues like epilepsy, and she had eczema all over her body. But most profound was the fact that she couldn't communicate at all, and she couldn't talk. Although her handwriting was the same, she couldn't actually write anything that made any sense, and she couldn't even communicate kind of basic needs like being thirsty or being cold. So it was, and she was in that state for 22 years until she died in 2013. So it was a very, very strange state of her being sort of suspended in a living death or death in life, and it kind of kept us all in a state of suspended grief as well, because you obviously can't. Although Mum, as she was, had completely gone, but you can't mourn for somebody who was still alive. That wouldn't be right. And so it was this sort of prolonged grief, and the real pain and sadness and guilt, that my life was going on, and that she lived in a nursing home for. We had her living at home for the first couple of years, but then it was clear that she needed full-time nursing care. So she was in a nursing home for over 20 years.
And the book is about that. It's about how you lived your life with that as a backdrop, and one that you never could entirely forget. I totally believe that would
it was
be the case.
There all the
It was
time.
Always there, yes, I'm sure. It's also, I don't want to give people the impression it's unhappy, because there are some wonderful stories in there. You had some truly amazing experiences. And going all through the book is your family's love of horses, in spite of what had happened to your mother.
Yeah, we grew up with ponies, and Mum loved the fact that they gave us independence, and she loved the fact, I think, that they kind of encouraged us to be brave and encouraged us to ride into the countryside on our own, and that those attributes later on were to serve me really well, because I actually had to be very brave over the next 2 decades, and I absolutely continued riding. I very much embraced riding, and I've worked in racing yards, and I've worked in Texas on a ranch as a cowgirl, breaking in horses, and I've lived selling and buying horses from gypsies in Ireland, and I had a sort of escapade in the Caucasus Mountains as well with horses. And horses were a way, I think, of feeling close to Mum, and they were also a way of, I think that because the accident happened when I was 16, it was sort of, which is such an important moment formatively for a young person, and because it was ongoing, it was almost as though the accident was this sort of kinetic, energetic force that lived with me, because it didn't end with Mum's, she didn't die, she went on, and horses were a way of sort of embracing that, in a sense, riding into it.
Yes, I was intrigued by all this, because I'm not remotely horsey. And what's really intriguing about this book is that you love horses, but it's not particularly sentimental.
No, it's not. I'm not sentimental about horses. I'm not sentimental about any animals, really. But I do love being around that sense of an animal. And I love the sense of a horse. I love the danger of a horse. And I think that the danger of Mum's accident kind of stayed with me, and the horses were a way of taking hold of that danger and making it mine, in a way, literally riding it, literally kind of controlling it, I suppose, as much as I could, in a situation where basically I felt very out of control in terms of what was happening to Mum. That felt like something that happened to us. It was absolutely out of control, and riding was a way of owning it, I suppose.
I haven't lost my mother. There is no good age for your mother to die. 16 is probably if you're going to be, I mean, it's probably about the worst age, I think. And there is a real ache for your mother throughout the book, because, as you say, your mother did not die until you were in your late 30s.
Yeah.
But she wasn't able to be your mother. And I think ache is the right word, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a constant longing for her and a constant missing her. And just when I sort of, I don't think you ever get over something like that. And I've had children. I've had 5 children, actually. And with each of those, each birth and each child, I've wanted her kind of more and more. I still want her. And I think I wanted to communicate that in the writing. That I think when I went out on these adventures, I was sort of looking for a sense of her and looking for a sense of home at the same time. And she was an extraordinary woman. And yeah, that's so the book, I hope, is also a tribute to her as well as other things.
It's also very, very honest about being a single mother, about being depressed after you've had children. And again, there was an element of missing your mum at that point, which a lot of people will be able to understand. You alluded to is it the Caucasus?
Yes.
And there is, I mean, that's why I want people to read the book, because there's, you have passionate is the only adjective
Yes, very passionate.
for your relationship with the kind of man, let's face it, I'll never meet, a Cossack who worked at your sister's circus. So tell me more about him.
I was just newly divorced and my kids were about 2 and 5 at the time. And I was working backstage. And my sister has a circus and I was working backstage in the south of England. I had a column because I'm a journalist in a newspaper, and I was making sort of bacon sandwiches for the performers. And he was a Cossack. He was dressed in fur and he would ride around on his horse shouting in Russian and encourage everyone to drink a lot of vodka, every cliche that you can really think about. And so obviously I fell in love with him. That was something that was going to happen. I then used my journalism as a way to fund various trips over to the Caucasus, which was an extraordinary time.
Well, I mean, you have all these incredible days in smoky rooms, eating sort of East European delicacies, and then men of mystery come and go and slam doors and disappear. Frankly, I find it intolerable, but you seem completely captivated.
Yes, I know. Well, I think it's a kind of reflection of the fact that my life was in quite extreme turmoil at that stage, that I would go off to Russia, I'd get a train for 2 days down into the Caucasus, which is just above Georgia with Chechnya very close by. And I would be surrounded by men with guns and knives wearing black leather. And that seemed like a holiday.
You said it. I hope that's given people an idea of what they can expect in the book. I'm sure it has. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There'll be more from Clover Stroud.